Good evening, everyone. We're pleased to have you here on your questions answered on being a crop insurance agent or a loss adjuster. I'm Doris Mold, and I'm one of the co-CEOs of Annie's Project, and I'll be one of your hosts this evening. Along with me from Annie's Project, we have Carisha Devlin, my other co-CEO. Carisha, if you could say hello to the group.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to have you all with us tonight.
And we also have with us Annie's Project founder and current board treasurer, Ruth Hambleton. Ruth, would you like to say hello?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the program.
This project is funded in partnership with the USDA Risk Management Agency, and we have with us this evening Sean Patrick. And Sean is going to be speaking in a few moments, but Sean, if you'd like to say hello to the folks that have gathered, we'd appreciate that.
Sure. Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, and we are one of four partners on this project, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. Just before we begin, just make sure that you've muted yourself during the introductions and the initial questions. If you have some questions that kind of come up more immediately during the slide set that Sean shows, you can certainly put your questions in the chat. We'll make sure that we get those addressed, and then we'll have an open Q&A, and certainly you can raise your hand, and once you're recognized, then you can go ahead and ask your questions. So we have some questions that came to us in advance, but certainly for those of you that are participants and have come to the live session this evening, we want to make sure that we get your questions asked and answered first, and then we'll go to the prepared questions as well. So I think you'll find the answers illuminating. This is the second session that we've held. First session was excellent. We're looking forward to another great session this evening. So just again, today we're going to be having a brief welcome, and then we'll have our brief slide set from Sean, and then we'll have an introduction of the panelists this evening, have people that are working for AIPs, approved insurance providers, introduce themselves, and then we're going to switch things up tonight. Like I said, we're going to open it up to participants, see if there's any pressing Q&As, questions that they have, and then we'll do those questions received in advance after that. And then we'll explain the next step if you are interested in potentially looking at becoming a crop insurance agent or a claims adjuster. Annie's Project, just briefly, is a national nonprofit. We have our co-CEOs, as I explained, and we are governed by a board of directors. We're spread across the United States and U.S. territories with occasional international programming as well. Annie's Project is currently being taught in 38 states and 1 U.S. territory. We have over 800 facilitators, and over 19,000 women have participated in Annie's Project courses. I'll also note that we have men and people that identify otherwise that participate in our courses as well, but we are women-centered, and we make no bones about that, but we don't discriminate. So anyone that wants to sign up can certainly join us, and as long as they're willing to follow our methodology. And then we reach a lot more people through the virtual informal programs that we do, and risk management education is the core of what we do. So this program is very much in line with Annie's Project, and just our vision and mission that you can read yourself. And I just wanted to let you know that Annie's Project is, as I said, one of four in this pilot project. We have the Intertribal Ag Council, the Rural Coalition, and Elkhorn State are also partners in this project, and they are going to be involved in recruiting and educating folks to become agents or claims adjusters. So we're going to now move into, Sean is going to do his slides, so I'm going to stop my share here. And I've got to make sure Sean can do his slides.
All right.
So if you'd like to bring those up, Sean, and then
Sure.
We'll introduce our AIP folks.
Sure, sounds good. All right. Well, hey, good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be here. I am Sean Patrick, and I am from the Risk Management Agency. I'm the Deputy Director for Risk Management Education. And I'm just going to go over a little bit of this great new program we have called Building Resiliency. But first, wanted to just give a kind of a brief overview of what we do at the Risk Management Education Division within RMA. Basically, we're trying to aid program growth and expansion. We want to see federal crop insurance continue to grow. We want more commodities covered, that sort of thing. Our overarching goal is to ensure risk management involves education with one or more of the 5 primary sources of agricultural risk, those being production, marketing, financial, legal, and human risk. So our outreach efforts focus on the following priorities at the moment. We're trying to reach historically underserved producers. There's a big emphasis on equity and programming at the department right now. Microfarm and whole farm policy training. We've been having a lot of these live events around the country, also online, where we want to inform producers about these great new policies that might suit their operation best. Focus on climate smart agriculture and also livestock producers, organic operations, and specialty crops. So we work with recipients, organizations generally who are selected through a highly competitive process, or we can do direct awards for cooperative agreements, and we conduct outreach at national level events. Recipients assist underserved producers and ranchers in effectively managing and mitigating risk. Producers also receive assistance, understanding and using crop insurance and other farm safety net tools. And a lot of our past recipients have included universities, HBCUs, nonprofits, and many great organizations such as Annie's Project. Currently, we have 16 projects. They're not proposals anymore. They're on. We got some projects happening. Those durations last about 12 months, and those started back in last August. Again, we're trying to reach a lot of the historically underserved producers out there. Partners include nonprofits, HBCUs, as I mentioned, and they can range from everything from financial planning to climate smart ag to wildfire preparedness. We have one course out in California. And this is our awesome administrator. Her name's Marcia Bunger. This was last year. This was at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. That was one of our partners in some of these great projects that we're doing. But we're here to kind of discuss building resiliency. And this is a pilot program. This is very new territory for us at RMA, but working with the IAC, Annie's Project, the Rural Coalition, and Alcorn State University, we're looking at lasting for 2 years, approximately $2 million to establish a pipeline of crop insurance agents and adjusters. And we feel that they would be well positioned to serve the communities that we're trying to reach. So we want to increase underserved representation of insurance agents. Some of the goals of this program include educating and informing traditionally underserved communities. We also want to provide the mechanism, the preparation and provision to gain employment in the crop insurance sector. We want to make available educational framework and career developments to be licensed in the states that they are seeking those licenses. We want to strengthen the connection between underserved producers and the federal safety nets for the agriculture industry, and also to provide opportunity for future career ambitions. So the partner organizations that we're working with, such as Annie's Project, can help us identify and enroll program participants from historically underserved communities. They can also assist us in providing that one-on-one assistance throughout the program to support and gauge the progress of the participants, and also assist with the connection of participants to potential insurance agencies, potential employers. These are the folks that we're partnering with for this wonderful pilot program called Building Resiliency. Of course, Annie's Project reaches over 19,000 underserved producers, large community of facilitators and educators. And Alcorn State University, I've done quite a few briefings, just like I'm doing tonight with Alcorn State. We're real proud of our partnership with the Intertribal Ag Council, as well as the Rural Coalition. And here she is again, ladies and gentlemen, Marcia Bunger. This was at the IAC's annual convention in Las Vegas last year, where she announced the Building Resiliency pilot program. This is sort of a snapshot of where we are right now in the process. We've come along quite a ways. Of course, back in the kickoff meeting last in October of 2022 with the IAC, Annie's Project, and the others. But where we are right now in the process is pretty far along. We're already in the stage where we're soliciting and enrolling program participants from traditionally underserved communities, and just trying to collaborate and kind of formulate a good training curriculum. So things are really coming along. For us, the end state on this timeline is a host an AIP job fair, looking at that at the end of next year. Just real quickly about that insurance cycle, I just wanted to give you a very general view of how the crop insurance cycle works. Essentially, producers have an application process where they talk with their agents and select a policy that best suits their needs. There's the coverage and billing cycle that we're all familiar with any insurance. And then there's, of course, the claims process, and that's where the adjuster gets involved. And also program changes which happen at RMA. With the Federal Crop Insurance Corporation, throughout the year, we are looking at ways that we can kind of tailor those policies to better suit American producers, farmers, and ranchers. Just basic definitions here of a crop insurance agent. That is an individual who's licensed by the state in which eligible crop insurance contracts are sold, also authorized by a company to sell them and service them. So agents compete on kind of a service basis. Crop insurance loss adjusters are the folks licensed by the state as well. They have passed a proficiency test and they verify their information affecting the coverage, and they also help to make determinations regarding the amount of loss. I think I had kind of glossed over it, but the national average salary for those professions is about $50,000 according to ZipRecruiter. Again, agents sell the policies. They provide the insured with options that best suit their needs. They inform them of deadline dates. They process applications. They process acreage reports and also receive notage of damage and loss from the insured. Loss adjusters visit farms for inspections. They provide insured with procedural guidance during a farm visit. They also appraise production. They determine or verify factors related to claims, and they determine insurable acreage and also claim documentation to support the indemnity or no loss. So again, new agents and new loss adjusters are both licensed by state. Adjusters do have proficiency tests that they have to pass. There is a minimum of 12 hours of specialized training for agents. They also have a competency test, and they have to retake that test about every 3 years. Continuing education as well, just to maintain their proficiency, make sure that they're boned up on everything. With loss adjusters, again, they're licensed by the state. They have quite a bit of training there with 60 hours, 24 of which is in the classroom. They have to pass a crop adjustment proficiency program. They also retake and pass competency tests every 3 years. And they also want to maintain their proficiency and training standards. And of course, some of those requirements are going to vary state by state. And finally, I just wanted to leave this slide up here for a little bit. You might recognize one of the names on there, Doris Mold from Annie's Project, but these are all of our other facilitators from our partners. Michael Heiserman is my supervisor. He's the man in charge of the Risk Management Education Division at RMA, and his email is right up there. He's a wonderful guy. Please feel free to reach out to him. And with that, I will take any questions or perhaps turn it back over to Doris.
Have any questions for Sean at this time? If you think of something later, we can always ask Sean in a bit here, but thank you, Sean, for that information. We appreciate that. And before we get started in the Q&A, so how we're going to do this, first of all, we're going to have each of our representatives from the AIPs, approved insurance providers, for those of you that maybe don't know the lingo, we'll have each of them introduce themselves, maybe just tell a little bit about themselves, how they got started in insurance, why they're doing what they're doing, that sort of thing, by way of introduction. And then we will open it up for any questions that you might have more immediately. And running the Q&A period of things will be my colleague and co-CEO, Carisha Devlin. So we'll just have each person introduce themselves. So I believe we've got 3 folks on with us. So why don't we go ahead with Kayla? Maybe Kayla, you could introduce yourself, and then we'll have Becky, and then we'll have Tanner.
Hi, I'm Kayla Lindsay. I am an area claims supervisor for Agro Sampo North America. I am the Missouri area claims supervisor. So what I do is train adjusters, hire adjusters. I really enjoy what I do. the favorite part of the job is getting to know the adjusters, learning their strengths and weaknesses, and working on both, making their strengths better and figuring out their weaknesses and working on those. So I appreciate you guys allowing me to be on here a second time. So thanks. Good to be here.
Okay. Kayla, how long have you been in crop insurance, as it
So
were?
I've been in for 10 years, close to 10 years. I started out as an adjuster, and then about 5 years in, I became a claim supervisor.
Okay, thank you. Becky.
Good evening. I'm Becky Fortenberry. I'm from the Southwest region, working for AgriSompo North America. I'm a senior adjuster. I've been here. This is my starting my ninth season. I grew up a cotton farmer's daughter and got into this in 2015, probably January of 15. Anyway, just got off the farm. My husband had passed away, and so I had to decide whether I'm going to farm on my own or do something different, and I chose crop adjusting. So it's been very rewarding. Keeps you close knit to the people. Ag is they're just the heart of this country, in my opinion. Super good people. It's very rewarding. It keeps me out of there's not an office to go to. Your office is the great outdoors and the turn row, and that's probably my favorite part of this job.
Thank you, Becky. Tanner.
Yep, this is Tanner Perkins. I am the Director of Business Operations for Global Ag. So I'm involved in many different departments throughout the company, with kind of like talent acquisition, claims, compliance, and regulatory and compliance being amongst those. I've been in crop insurance for 10 years now. Yeah, 10 years as of this past April. I was recruited out of Fresno State in California, big ag school. Coincidentally, not for pursuing an ag degree, but they liked what they saw and brought me on, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
Marvelous. Thank you, everyone, for introducing themselves. I don't know if there's anybody else. I don't think there are any other AIPs on. If I'm mistaken, please let me know. But Carisha, I'm going to turn it over to you to see if there's any initial questions to kick us off. If not, we'll go to the prepared questions. So thank you, Carisha.
Thanks, Doris. So yeah, as Doris said, we'll just kind of open it up right now to the floor to see if any of you that are joining in with us tonight, if you have any burning questions on your mind that you would like to get answered.
I'll go ahead and ask Kayla. In your introduction, you said you train and hire adjusters and agents.
No, sorry, I meant adjusters. If I don't think I said agents, just adjusters.
Okay, let me take that off then. So I'm interested. Do I just knock on the door or drop you an email, or how do I start that with you?
Well, so you can go and if you Google AIP, approved insurance provider, it will take you to the USDA page, and actually you can look at all of the AIPs that are on the site. It will actually, I think it has direct links to those sites for all AIPs. I think we're up to 13, or there's been some consolidation there. We may be around 13 companies at this point in the United States. Click on the link and you can go to their job opportunities and look for the job opportunities. A lot of times it'll take you to human resources. You can put your resume in. A lot of times it's word of mouth though. The way that I got into adjusting was word of mouth. I had a friend that was an adjuster and they were looking, I had an ag education, a bachelor's of in ag business from Mizzou at the time, and I was looking to find something different. And she said, "Hey, we're looking for a full-time adjuster in a specific area," and so I sent my resume in. And that's how it happened. A lot of times it seems like in this world in crop insurance, a lot of times it's word of mouth. Or if you know somebody, Becky may have had a different way of doing this. I don't know who you contacted, Becky, if you knew somebody, but a lot of times it seems like if you know somebody. But I always take resumes. I have people call me quite a bit. I get emails of resumes, and I just keep those on file, depending on where they're at. And I've also even given other AIPs. I've had supervisors from other AIPs ask me, hey, do you have anybody that sent you a resume? And I've actually sent resumes to other AIPs because I haven't had a spot for them for that location. So we want to work with everybody and want to help everybody. So.
That was a good question, Ruth. And just following up on that, Becky, how did you kind of get roped into being an adjuster?
About the same way. I had a friend that was an adjuster. He gave me a list of phone numbers to some people that he had worked with over the years, and I just called them all. And the companies AgriSompo was merged. Two companies merged together to form AgriSompo, and so I'd worked for Armtech. And anyway, that's the one that I did my training with and took my proficiency test and been with them ever since. So yeah, but just ask around. I mean, there's a lot of people that know people. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you know a farmer, ask who their crop insurance company is, and then Google it.
That's a good suggestion. Tanner, how does Global Ag Services, how do you recruit agents or adjusters?
So finding claims talent, it definitely falls along the lines of what was already brought up. So if you are a farmer or were farming, they've asked their adjuster, like, hey, is Global Ag hiring? Seems like a cool gig to have. And we have more than a handful of folks that were former insureds of ours that we've decided to bring on and move forward with all across the United States in all kinds of different practices. Obviously there's open recruitment or just open job postings. And then we do quite a few postings at universities, just trying to find fresh meat, as it were. They might not even know, or with some of those folks, they don't even know that crop insurance is a thing. Mm-hmm. And so they come in totally green, and they're essentially just fresh clay that we can mold, and we like that too if they don't happen to have kind of that ag background, which is good. As far as agents go, now that's going to be a little bit of a different aspect, right? Because we don't employ agents. It's more of an agreement based kind of deal. So typically what we find with agents, they either have an ag background, an ag business background, or like a finance, accounting sort of background, and they kind of take the leap and either form a small LLC, or they go after it as a sole proprietorship. Mm-hmm. And go through all that process of all the paperwork with the state and all that good stuff. And then they reach out and say, hey, I'm located in such and such state. I'm looking to get business or bring on business in X, Y, and Z counties. And I'm looking for an AIP to contract with or to partner with to deliver the crop insurance program. And then it's a whole nother set of paperwork and onboarding and all that good stuff. If the terms are agreeable to both parties. I think that being said, I think in Sean, in your presentation, you admit you had a slight blurb about compensation. I think that's fairly accurate for the 50K mark is fairly accurate for adjusters, kind of in the Corn Belt region, Midwest region. There's more potential earnings in other areas, and then for the folks that are maybe more inclined to be on the agent side, the sky's the limit. I mean, it really is. If you have a mind for business, you can work with folks of all different shapes, sizes, and colors, and really go get it. Some agents are actually able to make a very, very comfortable living, but it is commission based, so that's kind of the trade-off, right? And so it's there's definitely a risk reward kind of deal versus adjusting staff or being a claims adjuster. If you can find a salary gig, cool. But the model that we've seen more often is folks going more towards a contract or 1099 role, and that has its benefits and some of the downsides as well, in terms of maybe not having benefits and all that good stuff. But I think considerations for both paths, depending on your background and maybe kind of where you'll find yourself interested. Really, it's a sales and service, and a little bit of, well, not a little bit, I mean, a lot of people skill, I think, for both of them.
Thanks, Tanner.
Becky, I got a question for you. When you were talking about getting through the process, you said the word, you took a proficiency test, correct? For a lot of people, that's kind of scary, when they hear the word test. Maybe you could kind of assuage some of that fear or give us a little insight into what a test is.
I believe that, if I remember correctly, I believe has 3 parts to it. I believe that it's called the CAP test. I'm not exactly sure what all that stands for, but I do know it's the proficiency exam that we take in order to get our federal license in order to do crops. But like someone said a long time ago, if you can read, you can do anything. And there's a lot to different policies and crops and the whole process and how it works. But once you read and learn, and I mean, anybody can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So I would put their mind at ease. I'm just a country girl, and I passed it. So
the good part is that it's open book, right? And if you know how to work a mouse and know how to do word search, then you're set.
Absolutely. RMA has a really good search engine on their site. So
yep.
Any other questions? Robin, I saw you unmuted.
Yeah, are you offering training through Annie's project or through some of these other providers, and when is that starting, and is there a fee, to take the test?
Well, for people that sign up for the program, we through the project will be covering the fees, and there won't be a cost for you to be trained either. So what a deal, huh? But we want people to be committed to, actually following through on this. We want people to be serious about doing it. And so that's why we're trying to have some informational sessions like this, so people can kind of figure out, is this something they want to go for?
So when is the training starting? And then it sounds like I was Googling this website, but it just lists all the different providers. I'm not seeing jobs and stuff. I guess I've got to click around more.
Right.
But how do you know that there's going to be a job in your area if you go through all this training and then you're ready to go?
Well, we're hoping to be able to direct people to, that we're hoping to find that information out, right? Kind of simultaneously what's going on. There's a feasibility study happening, and one of the parts of that feasibility study is they're figuring out where there's the greatest need. I know from previous conversations, and correct me if I'm wrong, any one of our AIP, but it seems like there's a reasonable demand for adjusters, and the agents is maybe, you know, kind of more dependent on, you know, who the competition is out there, how many other agents are there, and your willingness to kind of go for it, as Tanner was putting it. So, so we're trying to figure that out. And Robin, because this is a pilot program, some of this stuff is a little bit up in the air. We actually met this week, and we're talking. We're probably going to start with classes for adjusters, and we're going to have a pilot within the pilot. And that we haven't set particular dates, but I would imagine that we're going to be looking at this fall, probably this fall for that. And then, you know, fall winter time period is kind of where I think a lot of the training will happen, but there may be some earlier too, especially for people that might be looking at sales, because there's some preliminary coursework that people can do through Kaplan that we'll be offering up for people to do some self-study.
So you'll email us with.
We will let you
Any
know.
more
So
information.
that's why we're asking people to fill out the form. So then we have your information, know that you're interested in the project. And then as we move forward, we'll give you a better idea of what our timeline is like.
Yeah, because it sounds like you're looking for adjusters, which I think I would be qualified for, especially after you take your class, since I'm a budget nerd. And I work with specialty crops, and I'm female and I'm old. That wasn't one of your criteria of minorities or underserved, but.
All right. Does that answer your question, Robin?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'll mute myself again and let you carry on, Carisha.
Other questions? You've already asked some good ones.
I do have, I'm full of questions here tonight, folks. I heard somebody mention that there's a continuing education. Sean, I think that was you in your slides. You were saying, you know, you get tested and then every 3 years or so you retest again. Is there continuing education programs that people will be attending in this career?
Was that question for me?
Well, for anybody, actually. I mean, Kayla or Becky.
I can answer. So you have to have at least 16 hours. Once you are capped, as far as an adjuster, you go through your 60 hours, you take your CAP test, you pass it, you become an adjuster. Then every year after, you have to have at least 16 hours of continuing education. Plus you have to take the competency exam once and pass it once every 3 years to pass it. Every company is, I mean, that's everybody, every single company has to go by that. Some companies may make their adjusters like ours take the competency exam every year. I don't think that's a bad thing. Some people may not do it, but every 3 years. But yes, at least 16 hours every year that they have to have.
And do you already have a relationship with those providers of that continuing education, or does that all come through Sean's office?
It's all based on the SRA, the standard reinsurance agreement. I mean, we have to have those hours, every single person. So the company, I think within the company, as long as we are following the SRA that is set forth by the RMA, then we are good to go. Every company, like I said, is a little bit different. But every company, all adjusters go to an update, what we call an update school, usually in the springtime, to get those 16 hours.
I think what Ruth was asking, perhaps, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ruth, does AgriSampo run those courses to read continuing education for your adjusters, or is there an outside entity that does those for you?
No, they're within that company. So we have to go over certain aspects according to the SRA. So we have a training department within our company that has to follow those rules, and we are all getting updated on the same thing. So
And you're using an acronym SRA. Do you want to define that, or I missed it?
The standard reinsurance agreement.
Okay, there we go.
Can I jump in real quick?
Of course.
Cool. So the other component here is going to be it's going to be state dependent. So for your state adjuster license, depending on the state that you live in or that you obtain your license in, that the state may require a certain number of hours as well. So usually there's overlap. So as was mentioned, 16 hours. That's the minimum that needs to be provided. And more often than not, the AIPs, the insurance companies, will get those classes approved by the State Department of Insurance, so it counts towards your license renewal. But if it doesn't, then, or in the off chance that it doesn't, then you need to stay on top of that so your license doesn't lapse. And most states that have a continuing education requirement, they need 24 hours biannually. Along with 3 hours of ethics that will count towards or ethics training courses that counts toward that 24-hour mark or whatever the mark may be. So I would keep that in mind when you're thinking about training and continuing education.
I think Becky, you're in Texas. What are you you have to have some extra hours. You have to be actually licensed. I'm in Missouri, so I'm in a non-licensed state. So 16 hours for me is good enough. But I think in Texas, Becky, I think you have to have more, correct?
I can't remember the number of hours, but I think it is 16 and then 2 hours of ethics. But I will say this, I'm licensed in Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Arkansas. I've never taken a continuing education course outside what my company offers, and I stay in balance with it. So anyway, yeah, the companies, most of the AIPs provide everything that you need.
Yeah, it would be highly unusual that the courses would not be submitted to the state unless they're like a 1 or 2 hour thing that's more informal, just like a single topic, just to get quickly caught up on something. But again, those are few and far between.
And Becky, you answered, we had one of our questions was asking, can you certify in multiple states? So you mentioned that you have several that you work in. Is that common across other adjusters? The others
I think a lot of our adjusters stay in just within their state. I have a little adventure in me, and I want to be ready when they send me out. I have been to Oklahoma and adjusted. I have been to New Mexico.
Okay.
You have to be bonded in New Mexico. Let's see, I have not adjusted in Arkansas and Louisiana yet, but I do renew it just in case.
Okay.
But some people like to stay within their state and they never bother with it. But honestly, it's not. I've never taken a test outside of what I have to take in Texas. I basically just get on that state's licensing. What is it? NIPR, that the CIRCON, that where our renewals come from. And honestly, it's just paying a fee, most of it, except for New Mexico. New Mexico's a little different. So.
Yeah, that's right. You just have to have your resident state, and then that will trickle down to the non-resident state. And getting those is yeah, just like you said, it's just paying a fee, submitting the application, and it's pretty painless. And all your continuing education hours will apply to your home state. And again, as long as that home state stays valid, then yeah, it trickles down. And then maybe you can be one of the lucky ones and get assigned a claim in Hawaii. I get asked about if we're ever going to pick up business in Hawaii constantly.
So for an adjuster, for instance, in that case, are you working for the company or are you a contractor? And then I presume, for instance, Becky, in your situation, if you're an employee and they have you traveling to different states, they cover your travel expenses and the like. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes. They give us a meal allotment every day. If they pay for our hotel, and of course, most of us drop company vehicles if we're salaried adjusters. And when you're staying overnight somewhere, you get an even I think it's like $75 a day or something like that for food. So you're not going to go hungry while you're gone for sure. Yeah. So everything it's there's nothing out of pocket when you're a salaried adjuster. Yeah.
However, Tanner, as you were pointing out, if you're a sales agent, you're basically kind of in business for yourself, or you're working for an agency and they're in business for themselves. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So write off, write off, write off.
Right. So they'll be filling out if they go the agent route, they'll be filling out probably some kind of form Schedule C or something like that, and being an entrepreneur. Whereas you'll now for an adjuster, did adjusters ever get hired, on a contract basis, or is it all salaried, or how does that work?
Yeah, there's gonna be a mix of salary and contractors. I think it depends on the AIP based on their appetite for bringing on full-time employees, and also depending on the region. Sometimes if the job duties are, or if the claim load is expected to be light, but you still need to have presence there, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have someone salaried. Typically a contractor will or a contractor or two will suffice. So yeah, I think it just depends on a couple of different scenarios.
Ayla, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Nope, I think Tanner covered. I was just going to say it depends on the AIP. There's a mix. We have a mix of what we call per diems, or you would say 1099 adjusters, contract adjusters, and salaried, full-time salaried adjusters. Obviously, the full-time and salaried adjusters have the full benefits. As Becky said, if you're a salaried adjuster, you have the benefits and you have are provided a vehicle. I'm not sure if every AIP does provide that for their full-time adjusters, but most of them do. As far as the contractors, if you are a contractor or a per diem adjuster, you can be a contractor with more than one company, so more than one AIP as well. So we don't see that as often anymore. I think that's a little bit going by the wayside, but it's a possibility. Typically, if you have a contractor or a per diem adjuster, they typically stay with one company anymore.
Becky, you take care of your own vehicle then? I mean, you said you had a car, you were provided a car.
Yeah, actually, when I started, I was a contractor. So I do think if you're going to go that route, that you probably need to take kind of a tax course too, because there is a big difference between salary and per diem, because you're getting handed this lump sum of money, and you need to know what where your gross expenses are coming from. As far as your vehicle, because you're going to get reimbursed for mileage. And so anyway, it's quite a lot of money to deal with, but then at the end of the day, not all of it's yours. It belongs to Uncle Sam, some of it. So you better know how to adjust, how to send it in and be disciplined about that. So that would be, if you're going to go in as a contractor, I would definitely make that a priority. But yeah, I actually hired on a salary position last March of 2022, and just a little more stability. And my boys are grown and gone, and stability is like the number one thing now. So I've enjoyed it, and they've been so good to me. So
And I have a question that came in regarding being an agent. The person wants to know how quickly they could get licensed and be able to sell policies. Kind of like a timeline on that.
Oh, wow. So assuming that you already got everything out of the way in terms of how you want to set up, if you want to be a sole proprietor or if you want to set up an LLC or something along those that's on its own timeline. I think that depends on the state and the person. But now you're ready to get going. Licensing is very similar to kind of what we've discussed with, as far as getting going as a claims adjuster. The main thing with the agent side, though, is some states, not every state, will require some sort of insurance proficiency exam being passed. The contents of which I'm not super familiar with, because by the time they make it to me for contracting or agreements, they've already have that under their belt. But I know it's something that they do have to do, and has come up, and it's just another step in the process. But once that's out of the way, the next portion would be to be, I believe it was 12 hours of training, crop insurance training for that agent. And this is typically facilitated by the AIP, either with the training personnel or training department, to just bring them online. Usually it's called crop 101, crop insurance 101, that sort of thing. And then after that would be the agent's basic competency exam. And so yeah, with the 12 hours out of the way, the comp test out of the way, you'd be ready to go and start selling. I think the unmentioned part there is, depending on the AIP or the AIPs that you choose to contract with as an agent, there's going to be some level of additional training that would be needed to familiarize yourself with the different line of business applications that the AIP uses, just for making sure that policy and grower info is booked correctly. And you can generate forms for to fill out, grab signatures, that sort of thing. And then a number of AIPs now have mobile apps too, that you need to be at least a little bit familiar with if you just need to pick up some policy language, that sort of thing. So there's I'm kind of dancing around the question as far as timeline. It can be as short as you need it to be if you if you really go after it, is okay. I think the thing. But I mean, it's a step-heavy process. Oh, sorry if you hear my daughter in the background. Yeah, it's a step-heavy process. But if you sit down and just tackle it and get it done, I've seen folks, in a matter of months get it knocked out. Sometimes less than that, before they're ready to go.
So, Tanner, if I can just ask a follow-up question. So, in your mind, it's important for somebody who wants to be an agent to have that kind of business plan, business model figured out, or at least pretty well down the road, far down the road, before they even take the classes, and kind of as far as the specific classes with the AIP, and get signed on with an AIP, or is that kind of done simultaneously?
So actually, the one thing I omitted was, if you can get on as an agent under an existing agency, that's going to be the easiest way to go, because then you don't have to go at it as a sole proprietor, right? And then you can kind of learn the ropes from the folks that are already there. And Tessa, I'm on the phone, baby. Sorry. I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
You're talking about joining an agency that was already established.
Yeah, if you can get on with an existing agency and learn the ropes there, maybe get yourself allocated some subset of existing policies, existing clients with that agency, and kind of grow the relationship that way. That would be, I would say, the easiest path and probably the quickest path, because a lot of times those agencies will also kind of help you, guide you through the licensing portion and all that stuff. And then once that's on, then you can get with the AIP, get those 12 hours, get the comp test out of the way, start signing documents. Yeah.
So kind of following up on that too, Tanner, and I'll ask this question to you, and then I'm interested in hearing from Kayla and Becky. Is there a way to job shadow, whether you're interested in being an agent or into adjusting in the beginning?
Yeah, I can't really speak to that on the agent side. I'm aware that some of the larger agencies do have like an internship programs, but those are the really big ones. But as far as claims goes, we've definitely had some job shadowing, people interested in the job. They hang out with an adjuster for a day or two and kind of get a feel for it. It's not unheard of. Not super common, but not unheard of.
With our AIP, we do offer internships every year. Actually, I'll have interns here in a few weeks. We've got 2 here in the Midwest. I'm not sure, Becky, if you've got any down in the South. But those we have 2 males that are in college right now, so we have an internship program. We also have started an apprenticeship program, and I think this depends on every AIP is different. So some AIPs may have internships, some may have apprenticeships. We have an apprenticeship where it's kind of like where you go and you're a lineman. I guess when to become a lineman, I think you have an apprenticeship, and you see basically you're doing the apprenticeship to get the job. You're eventually going to be hired. The internship, obviously, it's just to see if that's something that you're interested in. But yes, there are options. And also, if we have somebody that is interested, we can always allow them to ride, as Tanner said, with an adjuster for a day or 2, just to see what the adjuster does.
Once you're hired, let's say as an adjuster, Becky, how long do you get to kind of tag along with somebody? If I was going to be hired and I wanted to follow you around to kind of learn the ropes, how long of a period would that be?
I was actually with my trainer number one, you've got to complete the 60 hours of training before you can take your CAP test to become licensed to have your own claims. But I rode on and off with my trainer for probably 2 years. Yeah, it was a long time. And I learned something, every time I went out. Not that I necessarily had to do that, but he was open to it and just a joy to be around. I mean, I learned so much from him, and different crops, different, every year offers a different weather pattern and different set of circumstances. But anyway, yeah, I rode on and off with him for about 2 years. And I have done some training myself, and they'll meet me in the field and we'll, go over whatever crop we're working on that day. But yeah, for at least 60 hours, because that's how many hours you have to log as training before you can take your CAP test.
I'll just add to Becky's. So what we do as far as being a supervisor, when I hire an adjuster, you have to have at least 60 hours. 24 hours of that has to be classroom training. The other 36 can be a mixture of classroom training and writing hours. I always push for the writing hours because that's where you're going to learn, right? Mm-hmm. So when I hire a new adjuster, I typically hire the adjuster and then I have a mentor. So they typically have an adjuster that's a mentor that's close. They're probably a little bit older and probably been in the business for a lot longer. So I always couple up those new adjusters with an older, a wiser adjuster, I should say, that has more experience, and they're with an experienced adjuster. So I'm not the only person that they go to for questions. They also have people like Becky, who's a senior adjuster or a lead adjuster, or whoever I've partnered them with for several years. So you don't lose those mentors. I still have a mentor.
What are your peak work times and slow times? Is it pretty seasonal? Are you busy all the time?
Depends on where you're at. Depends on where you're located. We're our peak season in the Midwest in Missouri is going to be in the springtime with replants. If we have prevent plants, we don't have prevent plant because we're in a drought in Missouri right now. And then you have a little bit of free time sometime in the summertime, depending on if your state cuts silage. Depends on what crops you have. But the fall for us, October, November, December, if we have some bad weather, that's usually our peak time. Becky's is probably very different. And if you're out in California where you have 50 plus crops, you are busy all year round. So I work with 4 different crops here in Missouri because I don't have the boot hill. They have rice and cotton. I mainly work with corn, soybeans, wheat, and milo. So 4 crops. Becky, I'm not sure how many you work with, but I'm sure it's probably a little bit more, a little different than what I have.
Ours are wheat, cotton, corn, milo, and now we have several vineyards around. Texas is trying to grow grapes the last couple of decades, but mostly we start in March on the new crop year with wheat. March 15th is, for the most part, March 15th to April 1st is usually when wheat begins, and we're coming out of one of the longest droughts in history of ours. And we are working prevented planting this year. It was crazy. We had about 15 to, I've heard 26 inches of rain in some places just in the month of May. And so completely different set of circumstances this year. But anyway, usually we roll from March and April to wheat that we're having to appraise and take out. May is a little bit of a lull time, and then June kicks off cotton, milo, corn, anything that happens, to it, whether it doesn't, it's non-emerged or gets held out or whatever. And then the fall, sometimes we have a lot. It just depends on if it's rained in different places, but we have boll count on cotton. That usually takes a few weeks to do that. And then our cotton harvest, our records, our production records and things start coming in, and we do harvested losses. And so I'm usually fairly busy from March through January and February. Yeah. So but there's a little bit of a lull time. But yeah, you're not going to get bored. That's for sure. There's plenty to do.
So you can be quite busy, but is there options, for part-time work and also how flexible is scheduling things? Because that was something that's come up quite a lot, I think, with folks.
I think it allows for some part-time work. I've heard of some guys that even have side businesses, fencing businesses and things like that. Depends on how ambitious you are. I'm too tired.
Yeah, I've got some adjusters here in Missouri that have side, not necessarily side businesses, but they may have a part-time job outside of because our kind of our lag time is probably February, March, April, and then we get busy in May. So they may have to, depending on the year. Now it depends on the year. Some years are far more heavy on workload than others. But yeah, they may have 2 to 3 months where they have can have a side job. When I was an adjuster, I did actually work in those 2 or 3 months and had a side business and helped my dad with in his fertilizer and chemical company. I was able to go and work. So I've got an adjuster that works in a greenhouse until we get busy. Lots of different stuff. It's a great opportunity. You get to make your own schedule for the most part. Now you are on farmer's time, which gets a little bit tough sometimes, right? But man, this is a good job. I mean, you can't get a much better job than this. If you've had a 9 to 5 and you go to this, you're going to be like, whoa. But it is busy sometimes. Sometimes it's 16 hours a day, and then sometimes you're nothing. You got nothing going on.
Yeah, I definitely want to echo exactly that. We have several adjusters that are farmers themselves, and they're able to do that in addition to their job and get everything done on time. And I think this is also when being a contractor comes into play too. We have several guys that we've offered them salary jobs and they decline it because they have other stuff that they have going on they want to do, and they opt to stay contractors, and they can kind of manage their workload or communicate their availability that way. So yeah, quite a bit of flexibility and with the options that are available.
What advice would you give to someone who may be listening to the recording or that's with us tonight that's kind of on the fence, says, is this something I want to learn more about? Is this something I want to do? Or what would be a piece of advice or encouragement you would give them and to help them make a decision?
Just to talk, try to find somebody that's in a position, whether they're an agent. I know we've kind of really talked about on the adjusting side really heavily, but find an adjuster, a crop adjuster, find an agent, and just go have a conversation with them. Most agents and adjuster are typically pretty good communicators. You need to be a good communicator to be in either one of these positions. And so I guarantee they're going to be willing to talk to you about it.
Becky or Tanner, do y'all have any comments along those lines?
I would say don't be afraid of it. Like I say, ag industry is just it's some of the best people in the world to work for, to serve. If you are mission oriented, if you like to serve, you will love this job.
Yeah, I think it was already mentioned. If you have access to someone that's either a farmer or two, and they happen to have an adjuster, see if you can get hooked up with them, or if you happen to know someone that's an agent, just get hooked up. Or I don't know, Sean, are there any resources in your neck of the woods that can folks call into RMA and pick y'all's brains?
Well, as far as locating agents and adjusters, we do have that agent locator tool on the website, so that's quite useful, actually. It's really cool.
Right.
Any other questions? Doris has her thinking look on. I think one may be percolating.
Nothing in particular. Well, I guess I do have one, so people not, kind of considering whether we have a number of people, some say they want to do either adjusting or agent work. And some people, I think, might be put off a little bit by the 60 hours of training versus the short amount of training for an agent. And so I guess, do you have anything to say as far as kind of reducing people's fear of having to have 60 hours of education and what 24 classroom versus, you know, agents don't even have to go over 20. So, or, you know, so if you could talk a little bit, speak to that a little bit, that would be helpful.
My experience is my 60 hours didn't last. I mean, it was over in a minute. I'm not sure about, I think nowadays, I think they have an actual formal classroom setting for the 24 hours, which we did not have 10 years ago. But anyway, the 60 hours was, you know, that was pretty much over in a week. So.
Yeah, you got to think if you're in the field, 8 days for 8 hours, that's your 64 hours right there. But then you've already blown past the the minimum field requirement. It was at the 30 38, can't do math, 36. And yeah, and then the AIP will give you the 24 classrooms. So that really does go by quick. And then the reality is, like, to really know the ropes and be proficient, right? I mean, it's more than 60 hours. I mean, you're learning all the time. I'm still learning stuff. I'm not even an adjuster, and I just see stuff out of the peripheral, and I'm still learning things. Like, it's just it's an ongoing process, and different programs for different crops change, and you gotta stay up to date.
Ditto what Becky and Tanner said. It goes by in a blink of an eye. So and you're gonna want those hours. You're gonna want those hours. Like Tanner said, there's a lot of material. There's a lot of material to go through. Their RMA is ever changing some rules on specific crops every year, and we have to keep up with those. And yeah, it's not just a 60-hour deal. You're going to be with somebody for, as Becky said, she was with somebody for 2 years almost. So,
but as an adjuster, if you're on salary, are you getting paid? Is that your time or is that paid time for that training? Okay.
Paid time. Yeah, if you're on a salary, you're getting paid a salary, whether you're training or not training. So
okay.
And if you're a per diem, if you're a contractor just starting out, I'm assuming our AIP does pay. We'll pay for that training. We'll have a daily rate for those per diems, and we will pay for that training.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I know that we have people that are concerned about the number of hours. You know, they're looking at maybe doing a side gig or they're just kind of unsure if they'd have the time to do that in all one fell swoop. So good to know.
I will say too, as hiring a per diem, I hired a per diem last year, knowing that I have an aging adjusting crew in my area. Hired an adjuster in his 30s. He actually had a job at a bank. And I knew he wanted to get out of the banking business. And at some point, somebody was going to retire. And I told him, I said, it could be a year, it could be 2 years. This is going to be a long process. And within that year, it took a year for us to get those 60 hours and getting CAP trained. But right after he was CAP trained, I had an adjuster retire, so I was able to backfill that position. So there's options. You can go as slow as you want, as you need to, or as fast as you need to as well.
Any other questions or comments from our panel?
Thanks for letting us get on here and talk about it. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, I do have a little bit of information to share with folks before we sign off, and then maybe that'll give you a little chance to think of those questions that you might have at the end. If you are interested, oops, sorry. Why did it? Okay, let's stop the share here. It didn't go quite according to plan. It was, well, I see. I've got more than one window open with that. Okay. We do have just one thing that we'd like to share with people before we sign off, and that is the fact that, again, if you have not filled this out yet, we do have a form that an interest form, and that was included on the invite. But if you are interested, think that you might be interested in participating, we do have a form where we're collecting people's information. And then as we get further down the line on our timeline as far as getting things scheduled and start with the courseworks and things like that, we will be letting people know. So this does not commit you at this point. You don't have to follow through if at a later point you decide that this isn't going to work for you, not the right fit, that's okay. But we do want to get a sense for who's interested. So just make sure that if you have an interest, that you complete that form. And then also just if you want more information, have questions, or have other people that would need some more information about this project, you can contact either Carisha or myself. And very easy, just our first names at anniesproject.org. So don't know if we have any additional questions that people have thought of. If not, any last words, Sean? I'll ask if you have any last things that you'd like to say on behalf of RMA.
Well, Doris, Carisha, Ruth, thank you so much for all the support and the partnership with this. We really appreciate it, and it was wonderful seeing you guys and being out here this evening. So thank you. Great seeing everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
All right. And any last words of wisdom from our AIPs?
I just say don't be afraid of it. It's a like I said, it's a great career, good people, and just every day's different. And anyway, it creates a lot of new relationships, and just a network of people that just are unbelievable. And it would be great just to, I don't know if our company would ever do it or not, just if they were interested in just letting them ride with us for a day. I mean, that would be great too. So thank y'all for having us.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Becky. Kayla, or do you have something you'd like to add?
Just that it's a very rewarding occupation for me. Something I'm passionate about in agriculture. I didn't grow up on the farm, but ended up in agriculture. So you don't have to grow up on the farm. It doesn't mean you have to grow up on the farm to be in this position. But it is, as Becky said, if you have a passion to serve, this is a great job opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kayla.
And Tanner.
Yeah, I'd say, try not to fixate or worry too much about the onboarding and training process. That's all it's just all part of it. I mean, I don't think it's unheard of to say that, if you go into any new job or any new career, that there's not going to be some sort of orientation period, right? You got to learn the ropes. And I don't think that crop insurance is any different, but I like what was said earlier. Every day is a new day. I definitely think that rings true for crop insurance. I find myself looking at the clouds and going, I wonder what claims are going to get open tomorrow. So it's it's one of those things. It's a good gig.
And, if you're interested, take a look.
All right.
Thanks, Tammy.
Well, thank you, everyone. Unless there are any final questions from our audience, we will give you a few more moments of your evening back. But thank you very much to our panelists this evening. We really appreciate your insights. And thank you, Sean, for being with us. And of course, all of the people interested in possibly becoming an agent or an adjuster, we thank you for your kind attention this evening. So thank you very much. And we'll watch your emails and watch our Annie's Project website and social media for further updates.